Okay, we're going. The change of TechnologyOne since we started this in 2016 has been phenomenal. The ideas that all of you have come up with and the things that we've been able to do with those ideas have really transformed TechnologyOne and made life simpler for our customers. Hack Day 8.0 is open. Let's get hacking.
I've been to all 8 hack days.
8!
2, 1, 4, 2, 8. I've been to all 8.
I have been to all hack days.
Hacking is part of our DNA. It takes effort. It takes passion. It takes persistence. It takes resilience to take that idea and actually bring it to fruition.
I'd have to say Hack Day 2 is the best show.
My favourite one is this year's. Number 2.
1, Grandmasters of Hack. Grandmasters of Hack.
All of them.
Eat, sleep, code, repeat.
This one.
This one.
I've been involved in one hack, the Steam Lab.
None yet. This year might be my first. 1.
2, 1.
1. Just 1.
2. At least 11 hacks, I think.
3.
5. 0. But looking forward to watching the pictures this afternoon.
196 pitches, 30 awards, 12 have progressed through process after the awards, and 7 of those are in production. So congratulations to all those people. Our mission is to transform business and make life simple for our customers. And we do that through innovation and creativity. It's the heart and soul, it's part of the DNA of TechOne.
Hi everyone, I'm EJ from the UK, and my hack is my butcher's calendar.
And we've designed the One Pledge app.
So what can we do? We need to build a great big virtual wall to protect our cloud and our customers.
And so we come up with an idea called the Wilson app. It's going to mean increased productivity across the company, improved health and well-being, higher cost savings, better TechOne. Vote for Wilson. Thank you very much.
And our grand prize for Hack Day 8.0 goes to the Wilson project. Coming up, team.
This is really just the beginning for your ideas. Keep developing them, keep working on them, and keep polishing them up so you can be ready for the next Hack Day. And we'll see you all then. All right, welcome everyone. My name's Matt, and this is Sam. I'm a General Manager in R&D at TechnologyOne. Sam's one of our top systems architects. So we're here to talk with you about how to hackathon. Now, as you just saw, this is a video from TechnologyOne. We believe very strongly in the power of hackathons, and it's something which is a really important part of TechnologyOne's culture and part of our DNA. So we've been running these since 2016. You saw our wrap-up video from Hack Day 8 there. We've just done Hack Day 15. Yes, 15, wasn't it, in March? So this is like firmly part of TechOne, and the things that we found out about ourselves and our company culture over that time has really completely transformed our business, and it's delivered great things for our customers. So what we get out of it is technical and non-technical solutions. I think that's really important to remember. Hacking is not necessarily just about coding, it's about solving problems. And those problems may be no-code or low-code problems as well. We actually have a whole section in our hackathons called analog hacks. And these are process improvements. These are problems in our company that we ought to solve that don't necessarily involve writing any code. Yeah, so that's, it's a really big sort of eye-opener for a lot of us who aren't quite so technical. Now, Sam's here is the technical muscle, right? He's the brains of the outfit. He codes every day for a living, and every night as well, I think. Whereas I'm not. I come from much more of a sort of infrastructure analyst sort of background. So for me, the hackathons were actually a bit of a daunting thing at the beginning, because I thought, well, I can't code like that. So is there a place for me? There absolutely is, and we're going to be talking about how teams operate in the hackathon space and the importance of having diverse teams and having diverse skill sets in your teams. The other big thing that we found with our hack days is we have a pitch session at the end, and we're going to be talking about the importance of a pitch session. Everyone who pitches gets 2 minutes. We've got a really strict 2-minute policy on our pitches, and they have the undivided attention of the entire company for 2 minutes to pitch that idea. In that video, you saw Ed Chung. He's our CEO. He sits front and center, right in front of the pitch table, watches every pitch, votes on it, gives a CEO prize to the pitch that he likes the best. So what an opportunity, right? We're a multinational company. We've got 1,200 staff in 14 offices around the world. Hack Day is anybody's opportunity. Anybody in the company, from someone who joined 5 minutes ago to someone who's been there 25 years, to pitch their idea and put it in front of the entire company for consideration. That empowerment, that ability for anyone to say, hey, I've seen a problem and I think I can solve it, has completely transformed everybody at Techone. From being someone who says, well, I can't get out of my lane, you know, I might work in accounting, and I see a problem over there in our software, I can't do anything about it, to suddenly being empowered and go, you know what, Hack Day is my chance to go and do something. So full cultural change within our company. It's just amazing what's happened. What have you seen, Sam, in terms of Hack Day and its impact on Techone?
Yeah, well, I guess I would just say, you know, in terms of why we love Hack Days, it's really, I guess, an opportunity for everyone at the company to get back to the roots of why I'm a software developer, and that's to solve problems. It's, you know, whether you're working at a job and doing like business requirements, or if you're at uni doing an abstract algorithmic assignment, a hackathon is your opportunity to get to the raw thing that I think a lot of us get into software development for, which is to solve problems and make life better for people. So it's a very distilled opportunity to do that for everyone across the company. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Cool. Okay, so that's why we love it. Things that we've learned as a company that I feel are fairly universally applicable, and it's kind of a lead-in out of the kind of Tech1 spiel into the UQCS Hackathon, which is why we're all here for this weekend. We've learned that the best solutions are simple. The things that really stand out on Hack Day, and the things that, as Ed said, make it all the way through from a Hack Day prototype right into production enterprise software that's being used by millions of people around the world, is it's simple. It's something where everyone goes, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? You know, they are the ones that really capture the imagination. You go, wow, that's great. I really understand it. It can be conveyed simply and easily. You're taking a problem and you're delivering something really simple and focused. The next thing we've discovered is research is at least as important as the development part. And Sam's going to be talking about this in some detail in a moment. The temptation can be, especially if you are from a development background, to start cutting code like the minute the hackathon starts. And our experience, and my experience as a judge of hackathons over the last 6 or 7 years, has also been those teams or those people who jump in and immediately start coding often tend to code themselves into a corner, and they have to kind of throw it away and start again. The teams that spend a little bit of time researching and setting up a design and maybe doing their, you know, designing their database schema if they're using a database and things like that, usually end up with a better outcome at the end, and it tends to not be quite so high stress either. The third thing is the pitch is absolutely critical. The pitch is your opportunity to get your idea across and to win over the audience and the judges. And that's just as true for this hackathon at UQCS as it is for our Hack Day at Techone, as it is for a Shark Tank scenario where you're pitching like half of your startup into an enterprise space, and you're actually wanting capital, right? The pitch is absolutely critical. And the thing that was really hard for a lot of us, because, you know, we've been in the industry for a while, you sort of get to the idea that you know a lot. It was quite challenging being brave enough to suck at something new, to try something and to feel it's okay if I don't actually get this right the first time. So we've had numerous ideas that have been presented at one Hack Day and really gone nowhere. And the team takes it away, works on it, and then presents it 6 months later at the next Hack Day, and they win because they've stuck with it. right? They did it the first time and it wasn't great, but there was something there. They kept on going and they made it great. So that's really, really important. You know, this idea that a hackathon, while it's a great weekend, is not necessarily the end of that idea. You can take it, you can do anything with it, right? You could create a startup around your idea from this hackathon. So what I want to do now is play you a full pitch video. And this is from our most recent Hack Day. This was actually one of the winners from our most recent Hack Day. And I want to point out a couple of things about it. So watch the video and then we'll have a quick chat about it. No, it's a bit of Q&A afterwards. See the things, why you think this is good. But my cursor is frozen.
Might be on the other screen.
No, there we go.
Alright, next up we have Cheeto's collection tool. Oh no, sorry, I misread that. Cheetah query tool. Test your queries against production datasets by Martin Tame. Take it away, Martin.
We all love code that runs fast. The best way to do that is to make sure that we use queries that perform. Whether the customer is a tiny council or huge like Moreton Bay, we need to have queries that fly. In an ideal world, there'll be a way to test query performance against a range of full-size customer databases during development. But that's impossible, of course. R&D staff aren't allowed to access near customer data, as there might be all sorts of sensitive stuff in there. But maybe it's not impossible. We don't need access to the data. We just need to know how a query performs. So I've written Cheetah, a tool to help us write fast queries. Cheetah is a web app signed in with Okta. So I log in. Oops, got to remember the password. And once I'm logged in, I choose the production database I'd like to access. In this case, I'll choose Techone production. And I paste my query, and I run it. While that query runs, I'll remind you that every query that's run through this will be logged, and we'll know who's running these things and what they've been up to. So if someone's trying to query the data 1,000,000 times, we'll know who's holding up the production system. That's been running for a while. Let's see if it's finished. Still running after 16 seconds. Maybe that's not a good one for a quick screen. Ooh, 21 seconds. Could be a while. Maybe I'm in trouble here with my 2-minute timer. Oh, this might be in trouble. Oh, now we're in trouble. I chose a very long query. Oh, not good. I'll have to make do. When that query runs, what will return is the metadata about the query. It'll tell me how long the query's run for, how many rows it's returned, and it'll give me an access to a query plan. I'll be able to click on the query plan, which hopefully nope, out of time. I'll have to switch. Oops. It'll show me the query plan automatically, which I can display in SSMS. So imagine how fast we'll be able to fix customer issues with this one. Thank you. Bye.
All right. So why is that a good pitch? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah, he identified a problem really clearly up front, and then he said, and here's the solution. So it was simple to understand. He could get it across really fast and really clearly. Anything else? Yeah.
The problem wasn't contrived.
Absolutely right. It was a real world problem, and everyone in the room went, yep, I understand, and I suffer from that too. Yep, absolutely. Yeah?
When it didn't quite go to plan, he was prepared enough that he had a backup to refer to?
Absolutely. Most important. Doing live software demos, you're living on the edge. Things can go wrong. In what actually happened here was he connected to the wrong database. And so instead of this little database, it wasn't really Techone production, he had another one behind the scenes. Instead of the smaller database where that would return in 5 seconds, he actually hit one of our big development databases and it just went away. 2 hours later, we killed it. So he had a backup plan. He had the query plan, he could change to a different screen, and he could show the outcome. Yeah? Really important in a pitch to not panic if something goes wrong. Have a plan B so you can continue on and still get your message across. Anything else? No? Cool. Anything else from you, Sam?
The one thing I would say, and on that problem is not contrived point, is that it was a really relatable problem to the people in the room. He knew exactly who he was targeting. Our hack days are done by vote, and there was a lot of developers in the room, and they all understand that problem very well because they have to deal with it all the time. So he knew his target audience, and he made sure that his pitch was catered towards that audience. So in the brief amount of time that he had their attention, he's absolutely engaged with them and gotten their vote.
Yep. And he won the CEO Choice Award, which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
And he's in my team, which is even better. All right, so why do we love hackathons? Specifically, like uni hackathons. It's an awful lot like working at a tech company. Working at a tech company, how many people here do actually work in a tech company now? A few of you? Yeah, a little bit? Yeah. Internships, things like that? It's a lot like that, right? You're building something that's never existed before, which is always cool. It's creating something, and that's one of the beauties of software and also hardware. You know, you create something that's really never existed before. It's very exciting. But there's never enough time or people to do the perfect thing. So you're always having to focus and prioritize. Focus on what's that single key thing you're trying to do. What's the nub of the problem? What's the most important bit, and prioritize that. So then the final bit is teamwork really does make everything better. Yeah. One of the great things about hackathons is, and I know that everybody's got to do like team projects and things, and for a lot of people, team projects kind of suck. But a hackathon is an opportunity for you to choose a team, to be put into teams of people who want to be here, not necessarily people who are just doing a subject because they have to. And it mirrors what you're going to be doing when you work for a tech company, because everything we do is in teams. Nothing we do is individual. Yeah. So it's a really great sort of training ground and a great proving ground for going into the software industry. All right. So why are you here? I've put a couple of things up on there. Do they resonate? Meeting new people, gaining experience, trying out a new technology or a new framework, having fun. The food's always good. Got dragged along by your friend who said, come on, it's going to be great. Or maybe you want to win. Maybe you're after the prize. Any reasons up there that aren't up there? Why you're here? It's raining and you want to stay inside. It's warm and dry in advanced engineering. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Any others? No. Sam and I had a bit of a brainstorm on this, so we came up with this list. There's probably a few others as well, but every single one of those is completely valid reason. Yeah. There's none which is more or less valid than others. You're here to learn. You're here to gain experience. You might be here to win a big bit of cash or a prize. Sure. You're here to network. Judges are from industry and also from academia, so getting to know, if you want an academic career, getting to know someone who might be like a thesis supervisor in later years is good. For industry, we all have grad programs, so getting to know people for grad and internship programs is really cool too. Now, if you are in to win, little bit of advice from one of the judges on what you can look at. So we got a bunch of prize categories, and the expo on Sunday afternoon is really going to be centered around those prize categories. So if you have an idea, measure it up against the prize categories and see if there's one where you can really like focus and double down on that. So how many first years have we got in the room? Got a few? Awesome, welcome. It's going to be awesome to see you on Sunday. There's a first year's prize. Yeah, if you're a first year team, you're absolutely eligible for that first year's prize. How many people here are from another faculty or another department, like doing double degrees or, you know, yeah, from pharmacy or from another science or maybe even from arts? Yeah, economics, business, stuff like that. There's some cross-disciplinary stuff as well and community awards. So you can really focus in on those and say, well, that's the one I'm going to go for. Now, if you're going for the big prizes, like the 1, 2, and 3, here are some of the things that judges look for in winning pitches from previous years and winning ideas. You want to have a cool idea. So as with Martin in his pitch, it was an idea that was relatable. It was an idea where everyone went, yep, that's a real problem, needs solving. You want an innovative technical solution, and that might be the frameworks you're using, they're cool and interesting. It might be you've got some AI in there. It might be you've pulled together some different services and used them in a really interesting way or a really beautiful way. We've had some solutions over the years that have been truly elegant, and they haven't necessarily been written from scratch. They've brought in third-party libraries and services. They might be overlaying with things like Google Maps and so forth, but they are elegant. So we look for that innovative technical solution. We look for a learning experience as well. Like, what did you learn? You know, did you pick up a new framework and deliver something great in 48 hours with a framework that you hadn't done much with before? Something like that. Bonus marks if your system's actually been deployed. So this is a really interesting one because it's not necessarily a prerequisite to win, but it is definitely something we look at. Have you deployed? Is there a website? Is there a something that you can actually point to and say, well, it's not just running off my local machine? And then finally, a great pitch, because a great pitch is what gets your idea across. And for the first, second, and third, we will be having pitches. It won't be just in the expo space. So if you are going for those ones, you will have to prepare a pitch. And as you saw from Martin's one there, being able to fit it into a limited time frame is a bit of a skill. And something to look for in your team is someone who's calm under pressure when they're presenting like that. You got any others, Matt?
Yeah, no, I would just say on your pitches point as well, even if you aren't first, second, third, effectively whenever someone comes over to your little area, when you're at the showcase, you're still pitching. You know, you're engaging with them. You have a short period of time to engage with them. Like Matt said, there are lots of different people that go to these things. I know that there's some like venture capital guys who do walk around the innovation showcases and stuff at UQ. So it's always an opportunity, and it's even though it's not a formal pitch with a timer, you're still pitching when you have those conversations. So.
Cool. All right. So that's more than enough talking from me. I'm going to hand over to Sam, who, as I said, is the brains of the outfit, who's going to take you through some really practical advice and guidance on how to get the most out of your weekend and your hackathon. I would preface it by saying please ask questions if something doesn't make sense or if you want to know more. This is really your session, so please do ask the questions. We really want to hear it, right? Over to you, Sam, and I'll get out of I'll come across here. Right. You're in the space there. I'll move over here.
All right. Matt's really overinflated my credentials here. I'm just a humble developer, and I can't promise you that I have any answers to your questions, but please ask them, and we can try and work it out. Someone in the room probably does, if I don't. So what I wanted to talk through today is I guess a bit more of a technical and detailed kind of understanding after we've had the really high level discussion. Before I get started, I just wanted to get like a kind of a vibe in the room. So who's first ever hackathon for this one? Excellent. Okay, brilliant. So second question is, out of those people and everyone, who's here to win? Who wants to win? Come on, more hands. Come on. Anyone can win this, even if you've never done one before. But that's awesome. So yeah, I thank you. That makes it a lot better.
Last year's winners were second years, I think.
There you go. So.
First years. That's
amazing.
That's
right. So these are the 5 categories I wanted to work through, but I guess, so my kind of strategy when I'm approaching a hack is to work backwards. So Matt's really covered the whole idea of, pitch is really critical, and I'm just going to say that over and over again, because that's the most important thing with a hack is I really think that if you find the idea of developing an entire application in 2 days or a day and a half, 45 hours, I think we worked out, intimidating, it's because it is. You can't make a whole application in that amount of time. And so what I think is a really good idea is to think about what you want your pitch to look like and work backwards from there. So what I mean by that is if you have like a whole web application and you have a menu on the left and there are 4 buttons you're not going to click on, don't make anything behind the buttons. You don't have to. The pages don't have to exist. Really concentrate your development effort on the part that you're actually going to engage with, because this isn't going to be a production system that goes out at the end of the presentation. It's just an idea that will hopefully win you some money if you can. But it's just more than an application, it's an idea sharing mechanism. So that's definitely what I would say is critical for working through. And yeah, so we use the term minimum viable product. But yeah, make sure that you have a really clear idea when you're starting on what you need to get done for your pitch to win, and then work backwards from there. And that minimum viable product will change as you get 30 hours into the thing and you're halfway through and you realize you're not going to make it, but that's okay. Have a good goal to start off with. Tooling. A real problem that we see, especially with our hackathons, is that people don't prepare before them and they end up spending the entire thing getting set up with their tools. Make sure that's not you. So there are a bunch of different tools on the internet. I've got a collection of them here. These are just my favorites. I tried to find more build tools in Visual Studio Code, but it's really just that good that I couldn't. So I think it's fantastic, but make sure that you're set up prior to. No one's going to say that you can't install IDEs or anything prior to getting started. Using tools that you already know will obviously help you go a lot faster with development. So if you're here to do something new and to learn a new framework, that's totally cool too. But if you're here to win, I would strongly suggest at least making sure that you know the program that you're going to be using to make your application prior to starting. Just to talk through these tools, Visual Studio Code is obviously an IDE that lets you write your code. You can do lots of other things in VS Code, like the extensions are pretty crazy. So you can get together a very powerful set of tools for developing software. With that storing, I'm pretty sure I was saying before, one of the rules for this is that you guys have to check your code into a repo. So either GitHub or Bitbucket, I'm pretty sure, for free accounts as well. And deploying. So like Matt said, having a deployed system is really cool, but when I think of deployed system, that means just something that a person coming up to my stall or that's watching my pitch can actually use on their phone. Doesn't have to be deployed to AWS with rollover into different zones and AZ controls and all that. It just needs to be accessible with URL. Really easy way to do that is Firebase is really good for that. And ngrok is an application that lets you do a reverse tunneling system for your laptop. So essentially you can run it on your laptop and it means you don't have to do port forwarding or anything. You just get a URL where you can access a port on your laptop, which is really good for getting stuff up and running really quick. And it can trick Matt, so that's the goal.
I'm very easily tricked.
Any questions on any of that so far? Thoughts? No? Excellent. Okay, so we've got our tools. Frameworks is the next level up. So I know that in particular a lot of the subjects like 2310 are C-based projects. I wouldn't really suggest doing this in C unless you're doing something that's very targeted towards high performance. You totally can if you want. But in general, the high-level frameworks are going to make it a lot easier for you to get an application done. So I'm talking things like TypeScript and Python are really, really easy to get started with and make an application really quickly. And the other thing I wanted to cover is Matt mentioned that people can fall over on their pitches if they don't have a good database schema set up. But the alternative is if you make sure that that's not required for your pitch, don't build the database. You don't need a database. You can write it to a file, or it could disappear when they log out of the browser app. If it's not critical for your application, don't build that slice of the stack. So that's usually your database or your file storage mechanisms. If it doesn't need to persist past the end of the hack, then consider whether you need it at all. I've just got a few frameworks there that are really popular and that are really easy to get information on. So with Node, Express.js is a really good way to get a web server up and running really quickly with endpoints on it. So that's your backend. Obviously React, and just raw TypeScript as well. If you just write your application in JavaScript or TypeScript, it's essentially, you could do the whole thing in the browser, which is attractive from a deployment state as well. You don't have to have a backend running for that. Python, obviously Flask and Django are pretty prolific in terms of API frameworks. They're very prolific because they're very easy to get set up and running with. And yeah, so other ones are .NET 6 has actually come a long way in terms of really quick to start applications. They've got this thing called the minimal API, which means that you don't have to have any big startup classes to get your application running. It's just a couple of lines of code, so it's a lot more like something like Node. So if you're familiar with C#, it's actually a good option now. And the other one was low-code options. So there's lots of different platforms you can use online if you just Google low-code or fast app development that don't even require much code or any code. They can be good options for part of your application stack if it fits. If you can get it done really quickly, it's probably better than if you spend 20 hours getting it absolutely perfect for a pitch. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Any questions on that? John?
What would you say would be easier to learn for a first time?
Yeah, for a very first time.
Node versus Python, I guess.
That's tough. So yeah, I guess I'd go with whichever one you have experience with at all. If you have, CSSE 1001, I think that's Python. If that's still Python, if you've had any Python experience, I'd go that. If you don't have any experience with any of them, I would personally go Node just because I think that it's really powerful in that it's a front-end and a back-end language, and TypeScript gets rid of most of the bad parts of JavaScript. So controversial opinions here, but anyway. So yeah, that's probably what I would say. But yeah, whichever one you're more comfortable with, and hopefully one or the other you're a little bit more comfortable with. Cool. So last step on the hierarchy is high-level libraries. So when you're using any of these languages, you're going to, instead of reinventing the wheel, if you want to win, you're going to be using a bunch of different libraries from pip or npm to enhance your application. So you could end up writing your own machine learning engine, or you could just use TensorFlow. Pandas is a really good way to extract and transform data. Beautiful Soup is another one. Can't remember if that's Python or Node, but it's a really good web scraping thing. So if you're going to do a hack where you're trying to extract information from one space and they don't have a good API, web scraping is going to be the way that you're going to end up going. And Beautiful Soup's a really easy API to basically pick parts of a web page to pull into a data structure in an application. So instead of spending like 20 hours writing your own HTTP clients and all that type of stuff, you can just use Beautiful Soup and it's a lot easier. And Lodash is just a bunch of helper functions for, I think that's for TypeScript, that just make it a lot easier to write code. So if you're familiar with it at all, it's a really good one to use. But yeah, this is not an exhaustive list of libraries. The key point here is don't reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do the parts that other people have already figured out. You're composing something together to make a new solution that hopefully will win you the hack. So yeah. Excellent. All right, so Matt went into this a little bit before, but yeah, I just wanted to have a dedicated slide for teamwork as well, because I know for me at least, even at my work, it was probably the most apprehensive part of getting started with a hack. You come out of university with this trauma from being in group projects and having 50% of your group not contribute or more. And the fantastic thing is that this is over a weekend, so no one who doesn't want to be here is going to go. And so that means that you're going to have hopefully really engaged people, really good groups, and it's going to be people who are more like you in terms of wanting to get something done, wanting to make something cool. So if you're working with another person, it's not just double the amount of stuff that you guys can get done, it's sometimes 3, 4, 5, 10 times the amount of stuff that you can make. And if you look at all of the winning applications from the last couple of years, which I had a quick scroll through, there's like 3, 4, 5, 6 people on those projects. So what's the maximum? I think it's 5 or 6, but yeah, it's large groups. So yeah, definitely if you can get together with someone, it's going to make it way more fun. It's going to make hours 35 to 45 hopefully more fun than if you're by yourself trying to grind through the last 10 hours of a hack. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. Yeah, the other thing is that it means that you can delegate. So it means that you can break your big project up into smaller pieces and it makes it a lot more achievable for you. Tips and tricks. So want to absolutely cover the guys prior mentioned that can't forget. Make sure you sleep at some point during this hack. It's 45 hours long. You won't be able to stay awake for the whole thing. And if you do, you're going to make really rubbish code in the last 5 to 10 hours. If if you even remember what you're doing. So make sure you take a break at some point, have a shower. Those types of hygiene requirements are very important. Don't kill yourself trying to do these presentations or do a hack. It's not worth it. In terms of the pitch, our sessions are 2 minutes. I'm not sure how long the first, second, third ones are for this presentation, but you don't have 2 minutes to engage someone. You probably have about 10 to 15 seconds. So, and if you can get them on board with you there, they're going to listen to the rest of the thing, but make sure you really, really engage with people in that very first little area of time. If you want to try and get an idea across, you need to get people's attention straight away. So try and, when you're building out that pitch and you're working backwards, make sure that you focus on that part as critical. Like I said, interactive is cool. So if you can use a cheap trick like ngrok or some other really quick deployment Firebase to get your app onto people's phones, that's something that's really impactful for people. If they can actually use it and try it out, it means that it goes a lot further. If you look at the winners, a lot of them are interactive apps that you can use now and that work, and that makes it a lot more compelling. The key aim that you're trying to get with the pitch is make it relatable to the person that you're pitching to, and if they can use it, it's a lot more relatable. And yeah, last one's caffeine. So that was I asked the group of developers what their biggest tip was, and that was what they wanted me to say. So make sure that you have a lot of coffee available for you to keep powering through. Any other tips that you'd have?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, you're right. I just want to reinforce the one about sleeping and looking after yourself. You won't get bonus points in the pitch if you fall asleep halfway through. It's actually better if you take a bit of time, and you will end up, as Sam said, with a better quality output by getting a few hours sleep, and you probably even remember it.
Absolutely. No, definitely. Cool.
All right. So that's enough of us talking at you. Your chance to talk at us. Do you have any questions? Do we have questions on the live stream as well?
Yeah, we'll be this actually.
Okay. Any questions in the room first, though? Yeah.
For the people who haven't organised an idea, any suggestions on generating ideas between now and I guess starting tomorrow?
The one that leaps to mind here, to make it relatable, is problems on campus. I remember we've had a couple of great ideas over the last few years about taking campus resources that are old and clunky. That I think there was one that was like a Google Doc, and revamping it completely and making it available in a different way. So, and that's instantly relatable, right? Because they're the sort of things that you're all working with. So that'd be, I think that'd be the big tip, is look for something on campus. It's going to be close to home.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, if you can't find anything on campus, at least something that resonates with you, that's interesting for you. Because yeah, I mean, half of the fun with a Hack Day project is having something that's 80% done that you can work on later and that you actually believe in. So yeah, make sure that it's something that really resonates with you. Don't be building, you know, like a pharmaceutical thing if that's not something that resonates with you.
All right, any other questions? No? Okay, we'll go to the online ones. What have we got online?
No questions on online at the moment.
No? Okay, we got one up the back. It doesn't need to be, no. You've got complete freedom to display any way you want. So we've had purely text-based solutions in the past that have been excellent. We've had hardware hacks that have been quite amazing. So it doesn't have to just be a web app at all, no. It's most common, it's, you know, pretty straightforward and easy to do, but we've had people do AI hacks in the past that have been purely text-based.
And also, just to add to that, Mike had completely random ones, Minecraft mods, a Game Boy one from last year, there was on a physical Game Boy that you could play. Yeah, like, don't think that you need to do a web app. There's so much you can mess around with and do. Something that interests you, really, again, it's the main thing, which makes it fun.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a game category as well, so if you want to build a game that's
yeah, next question.
How would you optimize the efficiency
Really good question. How do you organise your team and how do you find your strengths and weaknesses and delegation? You talk to each other. It's the biggest thing, right? You've got your team, sit down, preferably before the hackathon if possible, and work out who's the strongest, right? Who's the strongest coder? Who's the strongest presenter? Who's your best researcher? Who's the person who can go and find open source libraries no one's ever heard of to solve your problem, and so on, yeah? So I'd say that's the big thing, right? Get your team together and then talk to each other and actually write it down, right? So here are the team members, give yourself scores in different categories and say, okay, well, this is who's going to do what.
Yeah, you can do a really good delineation between, like very traditional one is front end and back end. So if you're building an application that has both, you can have one person working on one while other people working on the other, and there's not really a lot of conflict happening there. If you're both editing the same files in code, that's going to cause a problem. So you have to make sure you plan that out and break it up into small bits if you can that are kind of semi-isolated from each other, so you can all come back together at the end.
Any others? Yeah.
Do you give a little bit of advice maybe on sort of conflicts like that in Git, like best practices? When should you branch? What should you be branching into?
Yeah. My suggestion on Git conflicts is don't have them. And what I mean by that is I mean plan out what you're writing so that you don't have them to start off with. A really easy way to do it is most programming languages have the ability to include other files in a file for a reason, and it's so that you can break it up. So if you need to break it up by person name, that's fine, but make sure that you're working in a space that's as separated from other people as you possibly can be, so to reduce the chance of those conflicts, because you do not want to be dealing with merge conflicts for a hackathon. That would just be the worst thing to spend an hour or 2 hours doing merge conflict. That would be awful. That's a nightmare. So.
All right. Yeah.
What's the best project you've seen come from a hackathon?
We were actually discussing this a little while ago. I remember distinctly one from a few years ago. And it highlighted to me that a lot of the things we see in hackathons, especially in the student space, where we're not sort of in a corporate or a government space where everyone's thinking about privacy and stuff, is we can see some stuff which is really cool but deeply unethical. So we had a ripper a few years ago, which was a social interactions system, and what it did was it actually had a Microsoft Kinect, so it was a hardware software hack, and they set up the Kinect to map the interactions in an open space like a cocktail party. And what they did was they used facial recognition to grab each person's face, and then they followed them around and worked out who they talked to, how many different people they talked to, and for how long. And then they mapped that into a super cool visualization like a solar system, where you had different sizes and different colors representing the different amounts of interaction, both in time and in the number of people. It was brilliant. It was so well done. It was hardware and software. The pitch was great. You could see it, and you said, "That's awesome. You've won. Now please go and delete that and forget you ever did it." Any other questions? Yeah.
What's the most common sort of project you guys see at hackathons?
The most common, it's that in terms of the tech, it's kind of that path of least resistance through the things that Sam showed you. So it'll be Node.js or Flask. It'll be using Firebase for deployment. It'll be a web app. With maybe a deployment to a phone as well, and it'll be inheriting some open source libraries, so you're not writing everything yourself. So in terms of the technology, that's pretty common. See quite a lot of that, and there's a good reason for that, right? It's quick and it's easy, and you can pick it up and run with it. And then if you do that, then it comes down to the quality of the problem you're solving, and your idea.
Yeah, and just because you're following the same path that everyone follows does not mean you won't win. Those types of applications win hackathons all the time, and it's just because it's a really good vehicle to solve a problem. really cool other types of ideas for hacks are, me and Matt were talking about the most different ones that we've seen, and hardware hacks come to mind as ones that are always ones that you remember. We both worked on a hack where it was measuring. We have a kind of a bar with beer taps in our village green, and it was measuring the beer flow out of the kegs to tell when they were empty. And it was a pretty fun thing to work on, but it was a very interesting hack as well because it's kind of different from the other one. So you can definitely go that route if you want to go something different. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with following that path of least resistance.
No, absolutely right. Any other questions?
Any tips on how to come up with good ideas, like ideating from experience?
Ideating, that's a whole different topic. It's a very cool one. There's a great tool called Google's Crazy Eights. Has anyone heard of Crazy Eights? No? Okay, it's a great ideation tool that was sort of formulated at Google, and they use it a lot in their ideation sessions. Basically, as a group, and you can Google it, it's all free on Google, strangely enough. That's a great ideation tool, and you can plug pretty much anything into it as a starting point, and it's all about brainstorming very fast and bringing up ideas very quickly. So you basically look at 8 ideas in 8 minutes. That's kind of the paradigm of it. So I'd suggest that. That's a great, if you haven't done a lot of ideation before, that's a really good one to use, and it carries across into business too. We use it at Techone.
I would say if you've got like your raw idea already and you're trying to look at different ways that you could do it, again, go back to that pitch and think which one of these is going to be more cool and more engaging for people to present with, and that's one that I'd go with. So so when in doubt, when we're ideating on pitches and on ideas, it's always go back to that pitch as like the source of truth of things. So. Yeah.
How often do you see hackathon projects like develop into something more later on?
So in the video that you saw at the start, our now CEO, I don't know if he was when that video was taken, he mentioned that I think 7 or 8 of those were actually in production. 12 of them have been worked on afterwards. We've had a bunch more hacks since then. But yeah, I guess the easiest way to tell if it's going to actually go past the hack day or not is if it's solving a real problem that's actually worth solving. If it is, absolutely, they get picked up all the time and made into real things. And outside of Techone, you see hackathon projects frequently become startups, like Matt mentioned at the start. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of hackathon specific, and if I think across UQCS and also Code Network, I've seen there's been some Minecraft specific ones from Code. Strangely enough, there's a guy there who's very big in the Minecraft community, where he's done a hackathon project because he really wanted it to become part of Minecraft. There's been quite a few that have been sort of the seed of an idea. I wouldn't say necessarily you draw a straight line between what was presented in the pitch and then what becomes a product, but the people, the team who have that idea and who find out they're great working together, will then often stay together and compete in multiple hackathons, and then move into things like UQ's incubator with a more concrete idea that they could then take through to a startup. Yep.
Let's say you have like a teammate who doesn't know how to code as much. What would you suggest them to do during the development stage?
Yeah, whatever else you need done outside of the code. There's so many things besides code. If you think about like a full application, right? There's opportunity for really good UI design. So it's critical. If you're looking at trying to engage for 10 or 15 seconds, having a great UI is actually probably more important than the code, in a lot of different ways. If you're building a UI-based app. So something like that. Again, if you look at the previous winners on previous hackathons, one of them, the chatbot one team member's contribution, I believe, was, but we're reading through kind of the Git attribution, was looking through legal documents to make sure that they could use libraries and stuff like that. And that was, I'm sure just as critical for that team as the person who did the code. So there's heaps and heaps of things. And yeah, if you think about the normal life cycle of kind of trying to develop something and planning up front, it's actually very beneficial to have someone who's maybe not as code heavy at that starting point to help guide the vision through the application.
Yeah. They can also act as your project manager.
Yep.
They could be the person who coordinates and makes sure that the function name that you're calling is the same as the function name that you're writing.
Yeah.
So project management is a really important and quite underrated skill, coordinating the team. That could be the person who's doing your pitch. You know, it can take quite a long time to get a really cool pitch together, and you have to practice it. So that takes time, right? If you've got someone who is wanting to do that and who's good at it, let them do the pitch so you can write the code. Yeah.
I've got a question here from online. So what would you like to see more of in hackathons?
Oh, just more of the same. I love hackathons. I really love everything about them. I love the variety, the different ideas. You know, you get people doing deeply technical AI problems. You get people doing things that are basically no-code solutions where they've pulled in different libraries and webhooks and so forth and synthesized something very cool, and kind of everything in between. You know, we mentioned the Game Boy one from last year. That was super cool. You know, it was a really fun thing, and a big part of that was something that no one else had to deal with, which was how to actually write your game in this tiny, tiny memory space. I think was it 8K from memory? Yeah, an 8K memory space, and you know that's a super challenge, right? So things like that are really cool. I would just say, yeah, more of the same. All right, we are at time. I think we might wrap it up there.
Yeah, everyone give Matt and Sam a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
You probably got a couple of these, right? Already?
I got one. I don't know if it's that design.
Fresh. You get one as well,
Cool.
Sam.
Yeah, I'll take another one though.
Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah, it's good. I'm building on the set, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
It might be multitask. Yeah.
They're good on the desk. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks for coming, everyone. So, I don't think they mentioned it, but Techone are actually sponsoring the top prize for this year, as they do every year. And we're very much thankful for that. This year, as you know, well, if you haven't done it last year, maybe you didn't know, we've increased the prizes a bit, so there's a bit more up for grabs, and there's a lot more of you this year as well. So I have a couple PSAs for the hackathon for this weekend, just to go over first. So, starting time tomorrow, 5 p.m., will be in the Advanced Engineering building. The whole hackathon will pretty much take place on that level. So when you walk in through the doors, that whole level is the hackathon for the weekend. The majority of it will happen right down the end in room 301, I think it is. But for the start of the hackathon, right at the start, will be in the lecture hall to the right when you walk in. So you go right down the end on the right. Big lecture hall is used in all the UQ promotion pictures if you haven't seen it already. That's where we'll open up the hackathon. So we'll say hello, we'll get team registration going, and then pretty much from there, you guys will have the entire weekend to work on whatever project you so choose with your teams. And we will call it quits at 2 p.m. on the Sunday. Now, 2 p.m. on the Sunday, we'll go into preparation for the showcase. Showcase will start at 3 to 4:30, and that's where Matt and 4 other judges will walk around and take a look at all your projects and so rank you guys for all the different prizes except for the top 3, and which will be shortlisted for the prizes. And the change up with this year is that for that showcase round, not only the judges will be judging everyone's projects, you guys also get to walk around and sort of vote for which projects you think are cool. So you get to vote on which is the best game, which you think is the best first year team, etc. And then a few teams will go through to the presentations, and they'll actually present their projects up in the same lecture hall that we start with the prize ceremony at the end. So that's the timeline for this weekend. A couple quick notes. These guys made the important note that you should look after yourself this weekend. It's especially important because it's 24/7. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who here is intending to stay at least one night? Yeah. So sleeping at uni, probably not something I hope that you've not done before. So this is hopefully a new experience for you guys. Definitely will be for me. So looking after yourself is very important, right? So make sure you bring spare change of clothes, toiletries. We've confirmed that there are showers in the AEB. There are showers on other locations on campus as well. So also maybe bring a towel and some stuff as well. I'm sure everybody else will appreciate it when it gets to Sunday. Bring toothbrushes, everything else. Maybe a sleeping bag. Definitely bring a sleeping bag if you have one as well. The situation for that is that we have the 2 rooms. We have the whole floor. We'll shut off one of the rooms when it hits about 9 or 10 o'clock, and that room will be dedicated to sleeping. So if you get to the point where you're going, this is too much for me, you just want to knock off for the night, you can go into that other room. It'll be dark. Nobody else will be around. You can just go to sleep. So yeah, apart from that, does anybody have general questions about the hackathon that they want answered now? We'll probably have more questions tomorrow when it starts. Any right now? Sweet. Okay, so tomorrow 5 p.m. we'll get started. You guys will have the whole weekend. That pretty much wraps up for tonight. We do have pizza coming. I'm not sure if it's here yet, but it'll just be outside when it does. But apart from that, thanks Matt and Sam for coming and talking. We'll see